You can call me Deki Ultra, and my intention over the next year, which is 2027, is to become a 2D animator in the 2D in the global 2D animation industry, more specifically at Powerhouse Studio as a rough animator. So I'm recording all of these videos, starting with this one, both to improve my English skills and to register all of my path, all of my journey, and I'm hoping that it will help to get me an extraordinary abilities visa card. So why I've decided to take this decision with my life, I'd like to, now that I gave you all the overall vision, I'd like to talk about it a little. So I've always loved art, and as a kid, I've drawn all the time. When I've reached 12 years old, I've decided to be a professional illustrator, but uh, I have too many fear of really chasing my dream, and because of this, I've never traced a plan. I've never constructed a plan, a really solid vision of and clear vision of what exactly I'm trying to make here. What exactly I'm proposing for myself, and because of this, the years passed, and I've almost I've almost gave up. So and and what made me have such a big leap, a big I will not record this again. I will not record this again. I've recorded this video more than more than 100 times, and I'm not exaggerating. So uh, I think it's important to accept that my English is not very good and talk in the way that I can talk. So returning to the what I was talking about earlier. I've I've always had that dream, but I've always loved to do art, but I never had the courage to say clearly to myself what exactly I am chasing for. And this was happening because I had fear of saying to myself what is exactly I was chasing for, and chase it and fail and discover that everyone was right, that I would never get to this. And it's actually, people wouldn't say that, people didn't say that I would never get to this, but people always told me that that's not the way, and told me to choose another way. So I've always had a big fear of this of if I was thinking, if it's not really, if it's really not the way, if people were right and that's not the way, and I would I it's better to take it safe and choose another way, another common way. of living, and that doubt grew me, grew, grew, grew with me over the years, and until I, I've almost, I've almost, I, until I almost gave up on my dream. And whenever this happened, I look at myself and noticed that I needed to take a decision, and I realized that if I if I stop pursuing the goal and start to thinking about getting better and evolving, I wouldn't be afraid of of failure, because failure is it's part of the path of evolving, of getting better, of becoming something more. And whenever I realized it, I've decided not to not have goals in my life, and just take a direction and see where it takes me, where it could take me to, where experiences I could live and enjoy in life if I just focus on evolving and enjoying life and becoming everything that I feel that I can't become, that I must become. So that's why I've decided to take such an ambitious path, because I think that if if the idea, it's not to reach the goal but to evolve, then why are you taking a direction that leads you to a such a small place, such a near place? And if the direction if the intention is to go further, so choose a direction that it's that will permit that will permit you to go even further and more, and further and further and further. So that's why I choose something so ambitious. And to be true, that's not the last thing that I see on my way, but it's the next thing that I see on my way, to become a 2D animator in the global 2D animation industry, more specifically at Powerhouse Studio as a rough animator over the next year, which is 2027. So, and I I had I had too much fear of talking about it in here, that I've spoken this phrase so many times, hundreds of times. So hundreds, I don't know if hundreds, but more than 100 times. And now I'm I can talk this phrase with so much in a such fluently way. But now I'm going I'm lost in I'm losing myself in the discourse. So that's it. I'm that's the direction that I'm taking. That's why I'm taking this direction, and we'll see what it could what it will turn me, what I'll become in going further in walking this way. So that's it. I hope this can be useful for some of you in any ways. So that's it. Until next time, and that's the no no no. Until next time, no. I have other things to show to you. So I've started to study um a few. Here's the translations, and I've started to study. Uh, I've started to study a few months ago, and that's what I've been doing for some time. I'm recording this video with no edition just to save time, but it's so funny that I'm I recorded it so many times, and now I will have to edit it because uh, some numbers of friends was on were on my screen while I showed it. So that's a 3D model. In the previous months, I've started to study anatomy because I think that in animation, the one of the biggest problems is to and waste of time is where people try to try to a big waste of time is when people try to guess what it has to be. So people lost time getting references and trying to get references and trying to guess. This, by the way, this is a an animation, the only one animation that I did in life, and I did it for a test of what I am capable for with my drawing skills today, even before I start to study animation. And the camera is not focusing, so you will have the very raw experience of what it was to me to develop all of this. So, and the camera is not focusing at all, but that's okay. So people try. That's the first animation that I did, and people has this problem. Animators has lost to me, in my perception. Animators lose months of time in searching for references and trying to guess and trying to do the poses and everything in the right way. So if I thought that I could study anatomy and perspective and this kind of thing before start to losing time trying to animate something that it's inaccurate. So first I I've thought about having the foundation of what I've trying to animate and have it very solidly, and that's why I've started to study anatomy before at all, because even before perspective, because when we when we learn perspective first, then we are trying to bend some things in a way that we don't even know how are what are these things that we are trying to distort. And so I thought that it will be it will be so much more efficient to study anatomy before I don't know if I'm talking right. Yeah, before. So I've decided to study anatomy before studying perspective, and studying perspective before I'm start to animate some kind of scene and study the 12 principles of animation. And that's why I've tried to study some anatomy, and that's the some studies that I've been making at this day at these days. Now I'm doing something different, as you can see on my 3D model. So I've I've noticed that that doing these studies were giving me some kind of visual library, but just of this pose and this position of every muscle, so and part of the body. So it will change if I would try to make other poses. And I if someday I need to make some pose that I've never drew nothing like this before, I will have problems with drawing this, and I would have to interconnect uh, the poses that I've already drew that I already drew. So it would be a problem. Not if I had a very extensive visual library, but to have something like this, something like Kim Jong-ji, I will have to draw for years to develop this visual library. And as a solution to this, I've I've studied some books of anatomy, and I've realized that if I really wanted to take it seriously, I would have to I would must to study posology. I know that it seems like it doesn't exist posology. So anatomical dosage, would I would need to study this, where the heads and the insertions of the muscles starts, where what the what are the forms of the skeleton of the human body. So I've noticed that if I learned these things, I would have the the mental library of someone that knows where the muscles are and why they bend like they bend, and why they stretch and squash like they stretch and squash. So it will be a very useful way and very efficient way to study so much more than just drawing poses and poses and poses in so much ways to have to interconnect this these things. I don't know the word I wanted to use, but to interconnect these things that I learned. So if I know that what muscle goes here and what are his head and his insertion and its head and its insertion, I I could just print here, print. I could just project the muscle here, like what I was 3D printing it in 2D. So it will be so much useful. It will be very efficient. But to I while I was studying first the torso and then the shoulders and other things, I I noticed that the body has too many muscles and bones, and we don't need to study all of these muscles and bones. And I'm not drawing at all these muscles and bones in animation, and so I don't need to learn all of these muscles and bones. It will be useful, and but it would not be so efficient to know all these muscles and bones. And mainly now that I'm starting, and mainly now that I'm trying to trying mainly now that I'm starting. What? Mainly now that I'm starting, and mainly now that I'm trying to be as efficient as possible, because as I said, I'm aiming to my intention is to become a 2D animator in the global industry within the next year, and I don't even know how to how are the programs, how are the I don't even know how people use Jumbun Harmony. So I have a long path, and if I want to do things like this, I need to be more efficient, and that's something very interesting. If you want to go further, if you want to go further and do this in the way, in the most efficient way, and within a very short period of time, then you will have to build efficiency, and that's what happened to me. And now I then I realized that if I study all of the human body, it will be a loss of time, such a loss of time. But if I resume the real body, if I do like Da Vinci did, and create my own anatomical structure, that it's not the anatomic system, but it's like my design of the human body, a design that I will animate, then I would have something more simple and efficient and quick, and that could allow me to go so much quicker in the direction that I set up for me. And reach the point that I see on my way, that it's so much quicker, that is become a 2D animator at Powerhouse Studio in within the next year. So I so I've decided to make my own anatomical structure based on where the muscles starts and ends, and their heads, their insertions, and uh, I created my own system, my own engineering system to do this. And here's the form that it has been taking. So I resumed the human body in hastes and blocos and placas. Placas. And that means there are apparently rods, blocks, and plates. And the head, for example, are a block. It's a block. And the rib cage, it's a block. And the pelvis, it's a block. But and that's the bones of the body. And the arm bone, it's the arm bone here. It's a rod. So I've decided to make things like this, and it's so much simpler. And you can see here that it's a very simpler version of the human body. And this archive has just less than I can show less than 500 faces. So it's a very simple, very low poly model. And if I have this in mind, I can rotate this and confirm that I've drawing this in a correct way, I can study in a very efficient way. So that's the intention of doing all of this in the last 2 months instead of just studying animation. And I know that by the way I'm speaking English and the bad editing or not editing at all in the video, and I'm there so much times that it's so many times that I've always know that I show it some walls and sky and things that are not so related to the subject of the video. It seems like I'm just an idiot to many people, but to me it's very clear the way that I'm going and how efficient it is and how it can, yes, turn, how it can, yes, set a new I don't know, a new meta, like in games, a new way of doing things for the entire industry of animation. So I can see this as something very big, and for me it's very clear. So when and people that I know and that know me and that see the way the way I'm proposing me to study, they say that I don't know what I'm. They don't say this at all, but they they don't know what I'm doing here, and they don't understand, and I I understand that they don't understand. It's a very specific logic, and so I understand that they don't understand and they don't want to understand, and it's fine. But I don't let it hit my clarity, because it's clear. So since it's clear, I just keep walking on my way and seeing it turned to be. Because uh, as I said, my I don't have goals. So if I don't reach the things that I'm aiming for, I don't care. That's not about this. It's about what I'm turning to, what I'm becoming. And man, I didn't know how to model in Blender, how to 3D model in Blender 2 months ago, and now I know how to model in Blender well enough to make this with just less than 500 faces and less than until now less than 40 objects. So I think that's very impressive, and I I think it's important to recognize that I'm doing well, and I'm progressing, and I'm evolving, and that's the intention. And that's all. So if I'm not reaching the point that I'm seeing in my way, I don't care. It's not about this, it's about evolving, and that point, it's just to set up a direction for me, and that's it. I'm making this anatomical structure based on dosage, on muscular dosage, on morpho-functional dosage. I don't know if that's the way that the translation, the correct translation would sound, but here it is, and I'm not entering too much deeper on how it's the logic here, because I think that will be a loss of time, and I can explain this better. I think I will explain it better in the future when my English improves, and when this get ready and my results speak for me in speak for themselves. So that's it. I think it's it for today, and uh, I'd like to document. I don't know if I talk about my private life, because I don't know if that's important. Uh, the way of the way I understand that the way that I think, it's it's this way because of some of things that happens in my personal life. So I think it's very important. So, but I don't know if I talk about it, and but I will not decide this on video, because it will be a great loss of time. So for me, and for you and all of you. So I think for today is it, and tomorrow maybe I start daily vlogging, because it's not about just animation, it's about doing exercises and meditation and all of the things that I do for to be capable of doing this in the best, in my best, and doing this the best that I can, just like Bruce Lee did. He's a very big inspiration for me, a very big reference for me, and so many others. So, like Jesus Christ and Buddha and so many others. So, uh, as I said, that's just a point in a way, and that helps me to move in a direction that has no goal, that has no limits, and I call this Ultra Viver, and that's the symbol of this that I created or canalized it. I don't know. So yeah, I have convictions that that's a symbol that well I've not decided yet if I will talk about all of this stuff, but I'm I think I'm done. Until next time.